The rain came down in heavy, soaking the streets of Lekki as thunder roared in the distance. A tall, weak-looking elderly woman stood outside a grand white-painted mansion with golden fences and towering columns. Her Ankara dress, already faded and patched in several places, clung to her thin body. Her wrapper was soaked. She held on to a small traveling bag on her head. The rain beat down hard, but not harder than the pain in her chest. "Maxwell, my son, please," she pleaded, tears blending with the rain. Her voice cracked under the weight of heartbreak. Standing at the doorway was her son, Maxwell Johnson, once the little boy she used to carry to school with worn slippers and a head full of dreams. Now, he was a billionaire tech genius, married to the elegant and cold-hearted Sophia, the woman standing right behind him, arms folded. She didn't call. She didn't even tell us she was coming. Sophia hissed in disgust. "This is not a village, Maxwell. She can't just barge in." Maxwell didn't even look at his mother. His face was tight, cold, distant. "Mama, I'm sorry," he said, his tone flat. "This isn't the time. You should have told us. You can't stay here like this." And then, with a swift shove, he slapped his mother and stumbled backwards into the downpour and shut the door. The gate clanged shut behind her. The streetlights flickered. The thunder cracked. But inside Olivia's soul, the silence screamed louder. She stood in the middle of the compound, alone, soaked, shivering. But it wasn't just the rain. It was betrayal. There, in the pouring rain, she lifted her eyes to the heavens. Her lips trembled as she prayed. "Oh God," she whispered, voice hoarse with pain. "I gave up my youth, my strength, my life for this child. I did everything for him. I fed him when I didn't eat. I clothed him when I had nothing on my back. And this is my reward?" She fell on her knees, her hands stretched toward the dark clouds above. "Lord, if I am still the mother that carried him for 9 months, breastfed him with my last strength, trained him from nothing to something, then let everything he has crumble until he remembers the womb that birthed him. May joy leave his home until he remembers the source of his blessings." She stood, picked up her small bag with what little dignity she had left, and walked slowly away back into the storm. Flashback. 18 years ago, in Ajagunle, Lagos. Back when Maxwell was only 5, his father, Andrew, died in a tragic car accident. He had been driving a late-night passenger as a taxi driver when a trailer lost control and crushed their car on the 3rd Mainland Bridge. The loss was sudden and heartbreaking. Olivia became a widow overnight. Many men offered to marry her after Andrew's death, but she refused. Not because she didn't crave companionship, but because she had one focus: a son. From the crack of dawn until late at night, Olivia worked her bones. She sold pepper, washed clothes for neighbors, and even cleaned offices during the night, just to make enough to send Maxwell to school. She never let him feel what it meant to lack. When Maxwell was 10 and wanted a school bag like his classmates, Olivia quietly took a job as a night cleaner at a private hospital. When he turned 16 and wanted to apply to a private university to study software engineering, Olivia sold the only land Andrew left behind to pay the first year's fees. People in the village called her foolish. "Train a son like this? He'll forget you the moment he sees city girls," one woman had mocked. But Olivia never stopped. And Maxwell, he made her proud. First-class degree, best software engineering student in the country, an instant hire by a multinational tech company. When he got his first pay, he built a bungalow for her in the village. She wept. He would call her 3 times a week and say, "Mama, you made me. I owe everything to you." But then, he met Sophia. She was elegant, highly educated, and smart. The daughter of a senator. They met at a tech award night in Victoria Island. Sophia was drawn to Maxwell's brain and even more to his rising status. After their wedding, everything began to change. First, the calls stopped. Then, Olivia's allowances started coming late. Eventually, she stopped receiving anything at all. When Olivia called, Sophia would pick and say, "He's in a meeting." She sent him text after text, voice notes, all ignored. After a while, Olivia said to herself, "Let me go and see my son with my own eyes. Maybe something has happened. Maybe he's unwell." That was the journey that brought her under the rain, to the gates of her only son, just to be rejected like a stranger. But something was about to shift. Just 2 weeks after that night, Maxwell received a call from his company headquarters in California. He had been suspended indefinitely. There were rumors that he had leaked sensitive data. A massive cyber breach was traced to his software team. That same week, a fire broke out in the tech startup he co-owned with Sophia. It burned everything to the ground. Sophia's imported Bentley crushed in a freak accident. Their bank accounts were frozen pending investigations. The mansion was placed under investigation, and with all that stress, Sophia collapsed. When they rushed her to the hospital, the doctor said calmly, "Madam, you are still not pregnant. In fact, based on your medical history and stress levels, getting pregnant might be difficult." The walls of their perfect world were crumbling. One night, Maxwell sat in their now empty living room. No staff, no electricity, no luxury, just candles and regrets. He looked at Sophia, who was crying silently. "I think I know where all this started," he said. Sophia nodded. "Your mother?" They both cried. "But how do you go back and ask forgiveness from a woman you left under the rain?" Maxwell paced the cracked tile floor of their now nearly empty apartment in Youre. The once mighty tech billionaire, who had once commanded rooms full of investors and developers with nothing more than his voice and confidence, now barely recognized himself in the dusty mirror leaning against the wall. His face had grown thinner. His designer beard was now unkempt. His eyes carried deep shadows of regret. Sophia sat on the floor nearby, legs folded, a bowl of cold Gary in her hands. She hadn't touched it. Her expensive silk scarf was stained with tears. Her designer handbag, once worth more than an average car, now sat limp in a corner with torn handles. "Maxwell," she finally said, her voice small. "Are we really going to do this?" Maxwell stopped pacing. "Do what?" "Go to the village. Kneel before your mother." Maxwell sighed and looked away. "Do we have another choice?" She didn't respond. He continued. 3 years, Sophia. 3 years of trying. Every doctor says the same thing. Every prophet, every specialist. They all say the same thing. Go and ask for forgiveness. Even that herbalist man you forced us to see said it. Are they all wrong? Sophia lowered her head. He dropped into the old plastic chair beside her and took her hand. "I don't care about the money anymore. I don't even care about the job or the house. But I can't keep living with this guilt. The image of Mama in the rain begging, crying won't leave my mind. Every time I sleep, I see her." Tears streamed down Sophia's face. "I was wicked," she whispered. "I was afraid of losing you, and I ended up destroying us." There was a long silence. Then Maxwell stood up. "We're going to the village." Sophia looked up. "How will we get there?" Maxwell paused. Their cars had all been seized. The bank accounts were frozen. The only thing left was a bit of cash in his backup savings. "I'll get us a bus. It won't be comfortable, but it'll take us there." And that was how, 3 days later, Maxwell and Sophia boarded a rickety commercial bus to Emo State. The journey was long, bumpy, and quiet. They didn't talk much. Sophia held her stomach the whole way, not because she was pregnant, but because she felt sick with guilt. Maxwell leaned his head against the dusty window and stared at the passing trees. He thought about the times his mother used to walk barefoot just to buy him used textbooks, how she stood for hours selling pepper in the sun so he could go to summer coding boot camps, and how he had repaid her by throwing her into the rain. The guilt made him nauseous. They arrived at the village late in the evening. The bus dropped them by the dusty road, and they walked the rest of the way, Maxwell carrying their only bag, Sophia dragging her feet in worn-out sneakers. When they turned the final corner that led to Olivia's small compound, everything stopped. Children playing with tires on the road paused and stared. Women at the communal borehole gasped. One even whispered, "Is that not the same Maxwell Johnson that built the tech lab in Youre?" News spread like fire. "The billionaire has returned, but he looks like a ghost." Maxwell ignored the whispers. He only had one focus. At the gate of the small cement bungalow sat Olivia, her wrapper tied neatly around her chest, peeling a bowl of groundnuts and humming a hymn. Her grey hair was tied in a loose scarf. Her skin looked older than it should be. She looked up as the gate creaked open and then froze. Maxwell stood there. Sophia stood beside him. Both dropped to their knees instantly. "Mama," Maxwell said, his voice cracking. "Mama, please." Tears poured down his cheeks. "I have no words, Mama. No excuse. I failed you. I forgot who made me who I am. I let the love of a woman blind me to the love that birthed me. I betrayed the womb that carried me. I threw you into the rain, Mama, and I've been in a worse storm ever since." Sophia couldn't hold it any longer. She buried her face in Olivia's feet. "Mama, I am so sorry. I was so jealous, so selfish. You gave him everything and I came in and took everything away from you. I don't even deserve to call you Mama. But please, please forgive me." The entire street was now watching. But Olivia, she didn't say a word. She just stood still, eyes fixed on them. Her silence burned worse than a slap. Maxwell lowered his head even further. "If it will make you forgive me, I will leave Sophia. I will give up everything, Mama," Sophia sobbed. "And if it will make you forgive me, I'll leave him, Mama. I swear, I will." The whole village held its breath. A long pause. Then Olivia did something no one expected. She knelt down with them. "My children," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Stand up. Stand up, please." They didn't move. She gently touched their shoulders. "You don't need to separate for me to forgive you. What is important is that you realized your wrongs. I never stopped loving you. I only stopped talking to you because I didn't want my pain to become a curse." Maxwell lifted his head slowly, face soaked in tears. "Mama, I cursed myself the night I pushed you. I did." She smiled faintly, her own eyes now wet. "But the same mouth that prayed in pain can also pray in mercy. I forgive you both. Fully. From my heart." And right there, in the dusty front yard of a humble woman's house, billionaire Maxwell and his wife Sophia hugged the woman who once gave her life for him and almost lost everything in return. But something was about to change. The very next day, while still in the village, Maxwell received a call from a strange number. "Hello?" A familiar voice came through. "Mr. Maxwell Johnson?" "Yes?" "This is Mr. Ahmed, from TechWave International. There's been a major misunderstanding regarding your suspension. New evidence has come up, and we'd like you to return for a full reinstatement." Maxwell's jaw dropped. "What?" the man continued. "Not just that. We want you to lead the new African Innovation Initiative. It's fully funded by our international partners. You're going to be the face of it." He was speechless. He turned slowly to Sophia and Mama Olivia. "Mama, something is happening." Maxwell sat quietly on the wooden bench outside his mother's bungalow. The sun was setting over the village hills, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. His phone still pressed to his ear. He was barely breathing. The voice from the other end of the line had stopped speaking for nearly 30 seconds now, but Maxwell hadn't yet found the strength to respond. "Mr. Maxwell, are you still there?" the man asked again. Maxwell blinked. His mouth moved, but no words came out. When he finally did speak, his voice was shaky. I don't understand." "You want me back?" "Yes, sir. There was a breach, but investigations revealed your team was not responsible. In fact, the internal audit team traced the leak to an outsourced contractor in Germany. You've been cleared completely. The board has unanimously agreed to reinstate you with full honors." Maxwell slowly stood from the bench. "Is this real?" "Yes, sir. And there's more. TechWave is launching a 200 million African Innovation Hub, and we want you to be our regional director. You'll receive full funding, a new office in Lagos, housing allowance, and full benefits." Maxwell could hardly breathe. "Thank you. Thank you, sir." He hung up, still in shock. He turned slowly and saw Sophia and Mama Olivia watching him from the door. Sophia stepped forward, worried. "What is it?" He stared at her for a moment, then fell to his knees. "We're back, Sophia. They want me back." Everything is coming back." She gasped and ran to hug him. Tears of joy filled her eyes. Mama Olivia watched quietly, her hands folded. She didn't say anything for a while, just smiled faintly and nodded. "I told you," she said gently, "when a mother speaks to God from the heart, heaven listens." 2 months later, Lagos, Nigeria. Maxwell stepped into the new TechWave office tower in Victoria Island, wearing a freshly tailored navy blue suit. The receptionist stood up immediately. "Good morning, Director Johnson," she said with a warm smile. Maxwell nodded politely, still adjusting to the title. He was back, but this time, he was different. No more entitlement, no more pride, no more forgetting where he came from. Sophia walked beside him, no longer the woman obsessed with status and competition. She had changed. The moment Olivia forgave her, something inside her had broken and rebuilt itself. She now wore modest clothes, volunteered at women's shelters, and treated everyone with gentleness. They lived in a new house, now a beautiful mansion, yes, but one that Olivia picked. And this time, Mama lived with them, inside their home, that evening. Olivia sat in the living room, rocking slowly in a cushioned chair. Sophia brought her a warm cup of ginger tea and sat at her feet. "Mama, I added a little honey," Sophia said with a smile. "You like it that way, right?" Olivia smiled. "Thank you, my daughter." Maxwell came downstairs with his laptop, balancing a stack of reports in his hand. "Mama," he called, "I've been invited to give a keynote at the African Tech Leaders Conference next month. They want me to speak about legacy and leadership." She chuckled softly. "Tell them to include something about humility too, and how not to throw your mother into the rain." Everyone laughed, though, a little uncomfortably. It still stung, but it was now part of their shared healing. Later that night, Maxwell and Sophia sat by their bedroom window, holding hands in silence. Their hearts were full, but one thing remained missing: a child. It had been over 3 years since their wedding, and even though their fortunes had turned around, the doctors had not changed their report. Sophia turned to him quietly. "Do you think God will forgive me enough to let me be a mother?" Maxwell looked into her eyes and squeezed her hand. "He already has." 3 months later, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Sophia sat in the waiting room, her eyes wide and confused. She kept rechecking the test result in her hands. Olivia sat beside her, watching. "What is it?" Olivia asked softly. Sophia stared at the paper, unable to speak. Then she handed it over to Mama Olivia with trembling fingers. "Pregnancy test. Positive." Mama Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. "Jesus!" Sophia burst into tears. "I'm pregnant, Mama. I'm pregnant." The hospital nurses and patients turned to stare, but she didn't care. Mama Olivia hugged her tight, tears rolling down her own cheeks. "God has done it," she whispered. "He has done it at last." 9 months later, naming ceremony. The compound was decorated with white and gold ribbons. Friends, family, and community leaders filled the large space, dancing and celebrating the new birth. A soft breeze swirled through the air as Maxwell stepped forward to address the crowd. His face was glowing, his eyes locked on the small bundle in Sophia's arms. "This is a day of joy," he said into the mic. "But it is also a day of gratitude. My wife and I name our daughter Olivia after the woman who gave me life, gave me everything, and still forgave me when I didn't deserve it." Everyone clapped and cheered. Sophia stepped forward. "And I want to say something too. To every mother, every woman who sacrifices in silence, please don't give up. If your children don't see it now, one day they will. I treated Mama badly. I dishonored the woman who raised my husband, but she forgave me. That is the kind of woman I want to be." Mama Olivia came forward, carrying baby Olivia and smiling brightly. She turned to the crowd. "Every person deserves a second chance. But never forget the people who stood by you before you became something. Never forget those who loved you when you were nothing." The applause was loud, but beyond the applause, one thing was clear: mercy restores, and forgiveness rebuilds. It had been 1 full year since Olivia forgave her son and daughter-in-law. The mansion was now a place of peace, laughter, and warmth. Little baby Olivia chubby cheeks, round bright eyes, and a loud giggle was the center of everyone's world. Maxwell had become the face of TechWave's African Innovation Hub, leading workshops, mentoring young tech talents, and even speaking at international conferences. But beyond the business and success, something deeper had changed in him. He became a man of service. He built a small tech training center in the very village he once abandoned. He opened a foundation in his mother's name, the Olivia Hope Foundation, which gave full scholarships to children of widows and struggling mothers. Sophia, on her part, had become a passionate advocate for women who had been rejected by their in-laws. She spent her weekends volunteering and organizing small businesses for underprivileged women. Yet, despite all the good, one final test was about to come. One that would shake the very foundation of all they had learned. One Saturday morning, at the gate, a loud knock echoed through the security gate. Mama Olivia was in the garden, playing with baby Olivia, while Sophia was in the kitchen, making okra soup. Maxwell was upstairs on a Zoom call with an investor. The gateman peeped through the small hole and hesitated. Then he called out, "Madam Olivia, someone is at the gate, and it's urgent." She stood, picked up baby Olivia, and walked toward the front. "Who is it?" she asked. But the moment the gate opened, her eyes widened. There, standing in tattered clothes and bare feet, was a woman with swollen cheeks, dry lips, and a baby wrapped in a dirty towel on her back. Her hair was rough, her eyes red. Her name was Grace. 10 years ago, before Sophia, Grace had been Maxwell's first love in university. They were inseparable, both from humble backgrounds, both hungry for success. But after Maxwell got his first job and began rising, Grace disappeared. Or so he thought. Now here she was. "Mama Olivia," Grace whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't come, but I had no one else. I heard what happened, and I had to come." Mama Olivia stepped closer, her heart racing. "Grace? Is this really you?" Grace nodded slowly. "I didn't leave, Mama. I was pregnant, but I didn't want to ruin Maxwell's life. I saw how fast he was rising, and her voice broke. "I made the worst decision. I ran." Mama Olivia's knees nearly gave way. She stared at the bundle on Grace's back. "Who is that child?" Tears rolled down Grace's face. "Her name is Mabel. She's Maxwell's daughter." Chaos erupts. That evening, Sophia sat on the living room floor, stunned, while baby Olivia cooed in her bouncer. Maxwell stood speechless, staring at Grace and the quiet girl who looked exactly like him. Mama Olivia sat between them, silent but watchful. "I didn't know," Maxwell finally said. "Grace, you left. I thought you vanished." "I was afraid," Grace replied, her eyes swollen. "I lived in shame for years, and then I heard how you lost everything, and how Mama forgave you. And something told me maybe, just maybe, you deserved the truth. I didn't come to destroy your peace. I needed help. I've been living under the bridge with Mabel. We've been hungry, cold. I tried to be strong, but I failed." Sophia wiped her face and stood up. Everyone turned to her. She walked over to Mabel slowly. The child flinched a little. Sophia knelt down and smiled gently. "Hi, Mabel. Do you like jollof rice?" The little girl nodded shyly. Sophia turned to Grace and said softly, "Let me get her something warm to eat." Even Maxwell was stunned. When Sophia came back with the food, Grace broke into tears. You're not angry?" Sophia swallowed. Her hands shook a little. "I was, at first. But I remember what it felt like to be the reason a mother cried. I won't do that again. No child deserves to suffer for the mistakes of adults, and I know what Mama taught me: everyone deserves a second chance." Maxwell held his face in his palms. "I don't deserve you, Sophia." She touched his shoulder. "We both made our mistakes, but it's what we do now that matters." Mama Olivia smiled faintly. Her son had learned. 3 days later, they sat in the garden. Maxwell, Sophia, Mama Olivia, Grace, and little Mabel. Maxwell had made a decision. "I will take full responsibility for Mabel," he began. "She is my child, and she deserves a good life. Grace, I will provide everything she needs. You'll have a home, food, education. You'll never beg again. But this family is my home. Sophia is my wife, and I won't disrespect that." Grace nodded silently. "That's more than I hoped for. I don't want anything else." Sophia turned to Grace. "You're welcome here, Grace, not as a rival, but as a mother who's trying her best." And from that moment, a new family was formed. Unusual, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But built on forgiveness, honesty, and grace. Weeks later, tech conference in Nairobi. Maxwell stood on stage. "As leaders, we talk about innovation, disruption, and scale," he said, voice firm. "But true innovation begins in the heart. You can build billion-dollar software, but if your soul is bankrupt, you've built nothing." The crowd clapped. He continued, "I once threw my mother into the rain. I once abandoned the source of my blessings. But life taught me that no amount of wealth replaces love, honor, and family." In the crowd, Mama Olivia smiled. She was seated beside Sophia, Grace, Mabel, and baby Olivia, new kind of family. And somewhere in Maxwell's heart, he knew. 1 year later, Lagos, Nigeria. The living room was quiet, except for the gentle ticking of the wall clock. Olivia sat in her rocking chair near the window, her hands moving slowly as she knitted a baby blanket. The late afternoon sun streamed through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. Across from her, Mabel and baby Olivia played on the carpet, giggling and rolling soft balls toward each other. It was peace, not just in the house but in her heart. Maxwell entered quietly, still in his TechWave-branded polo shirt, his laptop tucked under his arm. He stopped at the doorway, smiled, and just watched. "Mama," he said softly. She looked up and smiled, the lines on her face deepening with kindness. "Welcome, my son." He crossed the room and knelt beside her. "I have something to tell you," he said. "Today, we launched the Olivia Hope Tech Academy in Abuja. The governor was there. I gave a speech, but I couldn't say a word without first showing them your picture. The whole crowd stood and clapped for you." Mama Olivia chuckled. "Me?" "Yes, Mama. I told them the story of a poor widow who worked 4 jobs to raise a boy who had no father, and how that boy almost lost everything by forgetting her." She grew quiet. Maxwell took her hand. "But Mama, you didn't just forgive me. You gave me back my life. You gave me back my soul." Tears welled in her eyes. "I never stopped praying for you, Maxwell. Even in the rain." They sat in silence, the air filled with something unspoken but powerful restoration. 2 days later, the women's conference in Ikeja, Sophia stood on a wide stage, wearing a simple but elegant gown. Her voice rang through the packed hall. "I used to be the kind of woman who measured love by possession. I believed I had to be the most important person in my husband's life, even above his mother. And I destroyed a family because of it." The crowd was silent. "But that same woman is now standing before you, telling you this. You gain nothing by fighting the one who raised your husband. Instead, you gain everything by learning from her strength." She looked down to where Mama Olivia sat in the front row. "She taught me that love is not control, it's compassion. That marriage is not a throne, it's a table, where everyone who sacrificed gets a seat." The entire audience stood to their feet and applauded, many with tears in their eyes. Mama Olivia wiped hers silently. Sophia walked off the stage and straight to her. When she reached her, she bent and hugged Olivia, whispering, "I love you, Mama, not just for giving me Maxwell, but for giving me a second chance." Later that month, Olivia's 70th birthday. The celebration was like nothing the community had ever seen. The compound was decorated with white and gold, with long canopies stretching across the street. Friends, family, church members, even local government officials attended. Maxwell stood on a raised platform, mic in hand. "Mama Olivia is not just my mother," he said proudly. "She is the foundation on which this family stands." He turned to look at her. 70 years strong. You taught me how to dream, how to rise, and more importantly, how to fall with grace and rise again with humility. Sophia, now holding both baby Olivia and Mabel, stepped forward. Mama, you turned strangers into sisters. You turned pain into peace, and we love you for it. The crowd clapped. Mama Olivia stepped up slowly to the mic. She was wearing a soft lace gown with a purple head tie. She smiled, took a deep breath, and said, I once stood in the rain, with nothing but my tears and a broken heart. Today, I stand under the sun of God's grace, surrounded by love. What more can a mother ask for? The people cheered. The sun was setting. Maxwell, Sophia, Grace, Mama, Olivia, Mabel, and baby Olivia were seated around a small wooden table, eating roasted corn and sipping palm wine. Children ran around the yard, playing. The family had grown, not just in number, but in love, wisdom, and unity. Sophia leaned over to Maxwell. Remember the day we lost everything? He nodded. She smiled. I thank God for that day. He looked surprised. Why? Because that was the day we began to see clearly. That day led us back to Mama. It brought us Mabel. It rebuilt us. He nodded slowly. You're right. Mama Olivia stood and raised her glass of palm wine. To family, she said with a playful smile. The ones we're born into, and the ones we grow into. They all raised their glasses. To family. And as the sky turned to dusk and laughter filled the air, one truth settled over them like a warm blanket. Sometimes, losing everything is what it takes to find what really matters. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.